Yes, we'll rally round the flag, boys, we'll rally once again.
Shouting the battle cry of freedom.
We will rally from the hillside, we'll gather from the plain.
Shouting the battle cry of freedom. The Union forever. Hurrah, boys, hurrah. Down with the traitors, up with the star. While we rally round the flag, boys, rally once again. Shouting the battle cry of freedom.
Good afternoon. This is Paul Glumaz of the LaRouche Political Action Committee, being presented by General Welfare Presents. And today is Wednesday, the 9th of November, the Wednesday following the election, the Wednesday after the most incredible thing that has occurred. Now, if you look back in time, we would talk about a two-party system being a one-party system. They control everything. Everything's under their control. Anybody that tries to do anything is going to get framed up or get assassinated. There's nothing you can do. Big money rules. Wall Street controls everything. We're nobody. The media is monolithic. It controls what you see, what you hear, except for the internet and perhaps some of the foreign news agencies like RT or some of the other ones. You really don't have any different view other than the view you're presented. So how does the owner of the Miss America pageant, the reality TV of The Apprentice, the flamboyant billionaire who has gone bankrupt many times, I don't know how many times, I don't know if he's really gone bankrupt, how is this character, this bombastic individual who has never held political office, become president of the United States? This is the most if you were looking at this from 2 years ago or 1 year ago, a year and a half ago, this would have been the most improbable thing you could have probably have said to somebody. Yet it has happened. So how did this happen? You have to think about how people are thinking right now. Donald Trump is the president-elect of the United States. How is that possible? That is totally crazy. That is totally not in the completely outside of everything. So what I want to go through now is get across to you how this indeed did happen, and how and why it did happen, and why this event yesterday is a manifestation of what Wilhelm Gottfried Leibniz calls the best of all possible worlds. In other words, something had to happen, because the direction that things were going in were existential. Something different had to happen. Something that was not part of the program had to happen. And that is indeed what has happened. This is the eruption of the reality that something different had to happen. So now we have a situation where the entire establishment, all of Wall Street, all of the mainstream media, all of this has been put into a profound shock that they don't control it anymore. They don't control the American people anymore. They don't control the narrative anymore. So how did this happen? Well, I'm going to tell you the basic reason why this happened. And this is not because of what Trump said here or what Trump said there. It happened because on a global scale, many forces around the world, everywhere in the world, in Europe, in China, in Russia, in Latin America, everywhere, people in the know, people who are literate, people who are, including the United States, people who are aware, realized that if Hillary were to be elected to carry out the continuation of what Obama represented, which is the British-Saudi war confrontation with Russia, that we would most likely be in a nuclear war with Russia and China. That was the driving force in this election. That realization. Now, we happen to know that Bill Clinton was not on board with Hillary Clinton. Bill Clinton did not support the policies that Hillary Clinton represented. That Bill Clinton did not support Obama. Publicly, maybe. But we know that behind the scenes, Bill Clinton was not on board. That's very important to know, because that's a factor in this whole thing. So there are global processes involved in this. And this occurred also because in the last 2.5 years, a new global system is being created around infrastructure, around development, around China, Russia, India, and many, many countries. Everyone's coming into this new arrangement. China is even gone to the Ukraine and is setting up agreements with Ukraine, even in spite of the confrontation with Russia. So all of this is going on. And Obama and Hillary Clinton were all pushing to use the terrorism against every country in the world, to use the Saudi British-directed U.S. The terrorists inside Syria, which Donald Trump said he would work with Russia to wipe out, were being supported by the United States, and also the United States had massive amount of covert special people involved in on the ground in the ISIL al-Nusra operation being run in Syria to overthrow Assad. So this is fundamental. So this situation is fundamental. Now what happened is that a lot of people gave up on politics. And enough of those people came back in to vote. Many of them for the first time in a long time, or many of them for the first time who had probably never voted. They have come in and voted. Okay? And that's what did it. The forgotten person, the forgotten man and woman, as FDR would have said, or did actually say, is what defeated the machine. Is what defeated the oligarchs. It's what defeated this whole thing. Trump is coming in with no control. Nobody has control over Trump. Nobody owns Trump. This is unique. We don't know what he's going to do. We don't know if he's capable of understanding exactly precisely what has to be done, if he's capable of carrying out the policies that are required. But he did adopt Glass-Steagall. And he did say in the speech last night, a short message last night, that there were going to be millions and millions of jobs being created. Well, you're not going to create millions and millions of jobs unless you implement Glass-Steagall and create a Hamiltonian credit system. Now, whether he understands that, and whether he understands how that's going to work, and whether he understands how to bring that about, and whether he understands who he's going to work with, and how he's going to pull that off, and how he's going to deal with Congress and all that, I don't know. But that, if he's going to do what he said he's going to do, then he has to implement Glass-Steagall. Now, if you implement Glass-Steagall, that wipes out the power. That wipes out the empire right there. He cannot do anything that he says he's going to do without wiping out the British Wall Street, London, globalist financial empire and their population reduction policies. You cannot go there. If he's going to create millions of jobs, he's got to do something about the drug epidemic. He's going to have to take on the international drug cartels, because you're not going to do it locally. You have to do it internationally. If he's going to revive optimism in the population about a future, he has to provide that dream. He cannot be saying to people, let's cut everything back in order to save on carbon emissions and stop global warming. He can't do that. In fact, he's made it very clear. He considers the whole anthropomorphic climate change thesis to be a crock. But he can't do this environmental solar windmill thing. You're not going to develop if you're going to do that. If you're talking millions of jobs, that's not millions. Millions of jobs of that type aren't going to do anything good. Okay, so now let's go back a bit. I was out in the hinterlands. I was out in the forgotten America. The America that's not part of the core major cities, but the America of rural America, of suburban America, throughout a period of the 2014 election period. And by 2013, 2014, this layer of the population, the forgotten majority of the population, the formerly middle class, they were ready to lynch Obama at that point. Obamacare, an insurance ripoff, everything, Obama, they saw Obama as being an enemy of theirs. They were livid. And the Republican Party decided to exploit this sentiment to get the majority in the House and in the Senate. And when we were out there organizing for our policies, people by the hundreds were coming up to us saying, I gave money to the Republican Party. They're going to fix the problem. As soon as they get control of the Congress, they're going to investigate Obama's involvement in Benghazi. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. They're going to take care of Obama. They're going to oppose Obama, right? And so we don't have to work with you, Mr. LaRouche, Mr. Paul Glumaz out here on the street. You're just you guys are okay. We like what you're saying, but the Republican Party is going to take care of this. And so the Republican Party exploited the hatred of Obama in the middle class, in the general population, for what Obama has done to them. And they came in, and in 2015, they had control of both houses of Congress. And then what did they do? They went with Obama on everything. Who was most opposed to Obama in the Congress? It was the Democrats. For instance, the TPP. They went with Obama on the TPP. And this betrayal, as perceived by the population, by the most politically active part of the population, which was the Republican base, this betrayal then triggered the resignation of John Boehner as Speaker of the House. Then that triggered some compromise choice, this guy Paul Ryan. And now you have a Republican Party that was shown to be a total fraud to the people that put them into the Senate and the House. And it's in that context that there was a profound crisis in the Republican Party, and then Trump basically came in to the election, and he didn't have any record of compromise or any record of betrayal or any record of because he had never been in office. He had never stooped to anything. So he was able to just demolish these people. And most of all, demolish the Bush apparatus, because the Bush apparatus was getting ready to take over from Obama. He demolished them. Why? Because they were total frauds, and the entire base of their support had walked away from them, and they went with Trump. So the Republican Party completely disintegrated. Now, Trump is not a Republican, really. He's from New York. Sure, he pandered to some of these religious conservatives and what have you, but he's not one of them. He's for a single payer, he said earlier in the campaign on health care. So he was not part of this whole thing. And then what happened is the freak out in the establishment was such that they all rallied around Hillary. And the coming collapse of the empire, the systemic breakdown of the empire, and the fact that Obama and war with Russia and China would be the last option to stop a new system from coming into being, made Obama and Hillary the agents of this power. And the criminality of the financial system, the criminality of the millions and millions of refugees leaving the Middle East, the criminality of what these people have done, destroying whole nations, the criminality of their hypocrisy, all of this would normally say, well, what are you going to do? They run the system. They run the society. What are you going to do? There's nothing you can do. And there was Trump. What are you going to do? And there was Trump. So this incredibly improbable event that occurred yesterday, the aftermath of this event is incalculable. You can forget about the TPP at this point. You can forget about all this stuff, all these games. You can forget about it. We are entering an entirely new situation where we can prevail. The LaRouche movement can prevail in terms of the four laws that LaRouche represents. Glass-Steagall, a national bank, credit system, promoting those areas of the economy that create the greatest improvement in the quality and the power of labor, productive power of labor, and things like the space program and a crash fusion program. Those things can come in at this point. Whether they will or not, whether from Canada or some other place, George Soros and others will organize riots to destabilize the United States, whether they will unleash terrorism in the United States against the United States for electing Trump. Whatever, we don't know what this period is going to be like between now and the inauguration of Donald Trump. And we don't know if he will be alive. We don't know if he'll be assassinated, because that's what the kind of thing that's done. But nonetheless, as it stands now, if we make it to the inauguration of Donald Trump without his assassination, without complete chaos created by George Soros type millions and millions of dollars being spent to create riots and so forth and so on. And without Obama going to nuclear war before he leaves office, the world has a future now because of a new system coming in, and because Trump is not demonstrating an opposition to that new system, but in his acceptance speech he said that he wants to partner with all nations, not conflict. He wants to do business. He doesn't want to have wars. Okay, that's big. That's huge. Now, whether he can and others working with him can carry forward on this and deal with all of the operations that are going to be run now as desperate operations by the British, the Saudis, the Wall Street crowd, I don't know. I don't know if these forces will now surrender and agree to go to the new system or not. I don't know. We don't know. But we have an opportunity, and we must not lose that opportunity to carry out what has to be carried out. What the LaRouche movement has been laying the groundwork for a decade now in terms of actual policy, since the crash of 2007. But we are now at that point. And it is striking that Trump used the term forgotten men and women. The forgotten man. That was what FDR said back in 1932 in the 32 election. So, but to understand this election, you have to understand that this election was not really a U.S. election. It wasn't just an election in the U.S. It was because of social media, because of the internet, because of the instantaneous ability to read what the Russians are saying, what the Germans are saying, what other forces are saying. This election was not a U.S. election. It was in some ways, the first major global election, because the entire world was riveted on this. The entire world was in some way or another involved in this election. Why? Because the consequences of a Hillary victory could have, and most likely would have, led to nuclear war. And that is the reason Donald Trump was elected, because nuclear war is not as an unknown person politically like Donald Trump is preferable to someone you know will most likely take you to nuclear war. And that was why Donald Trump, in large part, why this election was more of a global affair, not just a local American affair. Because there you have communication and you have dialogue and you have discussion between forces in Germany and the United States, forces in Europe and the United States, all over the world, Russia and elements of the United States. There's this dialogue going on. There's a discussion process going on. That discussion process does not reveal itself in the mainstream media. Nothing but the imperial narrative appears in the mainstream media, but there is a discussion process going on. And the consensus was and is that a Hillary Clinton election would lead to nuclear war. Now, the LaRouche movement did never endorse Trump because we didn't see it as a personality question. However, near the end of the campaign, the LaRouche movement decided that the destruction of Hillary Clinton was the most important objective, and Obama with Hillary Clinton was the most important objective. And while she has been destroyed, she is not going to be president. But now Obama is still president, and that still is a problem, is an issue of profound concern, because he's still president for another 2.5 months. And it's going to be very dangerous because this guy is a complete psychopath. And he is not happy. And he will move if he's not blocked. He will move to bomb North Korea, to do something. It's not over. We're not out of the woods until this bastard is gone. Is not in the White House. Could be false flags. You don't know. This bastard will do anything on behalf of his masters, the British monarchy and the financial power and the Saudis and what have you. This bastard will do anything. And people have to know we're not out of the woods. And then on top of that, we have potential disintegration of the financial system at this point, and emergency actions are going to have to be taken. And the problem is you have 2.5 months where you have a president who will not act to defend the population in the financial collapse. That is a matter of serious concern. So you have 2.5 months of this creep in the White House. And this is really the most dangerous period, both in terms of starting a war and as well as in terms of the financial situation.
The Union forever, hurrah, boys, hurrah! Down with the traitor, up with the star, while we rally round the flag, boys, rally once again, shouting the battle cry of freedom.
Billionaire who has gone bankrupt many times. I don't know how many times. I don't know if he's really gone bankrupt. How is this character, this bombastic individual who has never held political office, become president of the United States? This is the most if you were looking at this from 2 years ago or 1 year ago, a year and a half ago, this would have been the most improbable thing you could have probably have said to somebody. Yet it has happened. So how did this happen? You have to think about how people are thinking right now. Donald Trump is the president-elect of the United States. How is that possible? That is totally crazy. That is totally not in the completely outside of everything. So what I want to go through now is get across to you how this indeed did happen, and how and why it did happen, and why this event yesterday is get framed up or get assassinated. There's nothing you can do. Big money rules. Wall Street controls everything. We're nobody. The media is monolithic. It controls what you see, what you hear, except for the internet and perhaps some of the foreign news agencies like RT or some of the other ones. You really don't have any different view other than the view you're presented. So how does the owner of the Miss America pageant, the reality TV of The Apprentice, the flamboyant being presented by General Welfare Presents, and today is Wednesday, the 9th of November, the Wednesday following the election, the Wednesday after the most incredible thing that has occurred. Now, if you look back in time, we would talk about a two-party system being a one-party system. They control everything. Everything's under their control. Anybody that tries to do anything is going to get.
Yes, we'll rally round the flag, boys. We'll rally once again.
Shouting the battle cry of freedom.
We will rally from the hillside.
Good afternoon. This is Paul Glumaz of the LaRouche Political Action Committee.